Last time, Cell and Majin Soma made up and decided to fight for Earth. Buu was nearly reformed with Hercule, only for things to go wrong since he was hurt by 2 humans. Meanwhile, in Hiffle, Babidi has plans to create another monster. With all these villains, how will Cell and his family survive? Find out on this episode of What If Cell Turned Good? The Hellbreaker Saga begins. Super Buu arrived on the lookout, ready to have a good fight, since he had sent Super Saiyan 3 Goku and even Cell here earlier. However, when he gets there, the only person to greet him is this weird blue woman.
"Where's Cell? I want to fight him,"
Buu said, looking around the lookout. "What's the matter with fighting me, big guy? Too shy to fight a woman?" Lazulia then teleported in and decked Buu in the schnoz. "Big mistake not taking me seriously." This hit actually hurt Buu, more so than he expected, but before he could retaliate, the fusion had already kicked him off the lookout, fighting him in the air. Lazulia punched and kicked as hard as she could, making every hit count until her target had been pushed far away from her family and friends. Buu, however, was starting to adjust to his new power, along with his opponents, and began pushing back. The two began fighting on even terms, going blow for blow in the sky. However, Buu had noticed that Lazulia had stopped hitting him. Instead, she was teleporting around. He thought she was just trying to attack from behind, but he countered every time. Even so, she kept doing it, flying around the battlefield with Buu countering and landing some pretty heavy blows on the fusion.
"Ugh, you not fighting back anymore. This isn't fun. Bring out Cell now!"
Buu yelled out, now finally noticing the red strings floating around him. "Oh, just wait, big guy. Ever been tied up? I hear it's tons of fun." Lazulia then crossed her arms, causing all the red strings to suddenly tighten around Buu, binding him as they lit up with Ki. Buu attempted to morph his body in order to get out of this, but Ki surrounded the wires, creating a small barrier holding him in place. He then tried to overpower this Ki with a blast, however it did nothing, only blowing up in his face. He then felt his Ki slowly draining, while the barrier got stronger. Lazulia smiled as Buu's own smile turned into a frown, and he began freaking out and shooting mouth blasts like crazy. The fusion held her hands in place, her now struggling to hold the barrier together, even with the siphoned energy from Buu. The enhanced psycho threads were strong, but even with her own Ki infused in them, Super Buu was starting to overpower the threads. Buu began to scream something fierce, his Ki soaring as the threads began to snap and break around him, and Lazulia was thrown back from the sheer force of this scream. Super Buu then looked towards the fusion, a wicked smile forming on his face once more.
"Smart, but Buu too strong for you. Now it's Buu's turn."
With that, the genie raced forward and decked Lazulia in the schnoz, sending her flying through the clouds, so much so that she eventually crashed into the lookout, shaking the building from the force. The fusion was able to recover, only to be met with more punches from Buu, her barely able to block each of them. While the two were about even in speed, Buu's punches packed more of a wallop, then bruising Lazulia's arms over time. Lazulia was in quite a pickle right now. She used her best strategy on this thing and still lost. Now, all she could do was buy time for Gotenks to appear. But man, did this suck. Meanwhile, Soma, Mei, and Kogu were watching from atop the lookout, each of them wishing they could do something, anything, against this monster. Mei in particular wanted to fly out there and help, but Soma held on to her, saying no way their dad would let her fight. "But Dad wouldn't just sit back and watch Zangya getting beat up either. We have to help her." The child wriggled around, doing everything she could to get free of Soma's grasp.
"We can't. Just wait for Piccolo to wake Goten and Trunks. They'll take care of this."
That caused Mei to suddenly stop her wriggling and sigh. "You know, I get that they confuse, but it's not all about them. I'll show you." Soma was about to ask what she meant, but the Skinny Cell Jr. suddenly burst into a muscular form, something Kogu recognized. Mei broke out of Soma's hold with a monstrous amount of power, and then flew off to confront Buu without a single word. Soma was about to fly off, but Kogu put a hand on his shoulder to stop him.
That form, it's the form only few herons can achieve. It's exceedingly rare in females. If we could, I'd like to watch this play out. What? I don't have time for an exposition dump. We need to help out my little sister. She could be...
Be what? After meeting Mr. Satan and after becoming this form, have you ever seen him off someone who didn't deserve it? This Buu creature, he's a strange one. But I don't think he's evil like Babidi or I. Soma had been thinking the same thing, but he still needed to make sure his sister didn't get hurt. The android flew off the lookout, chasing after his sister, only to find her landing a combo on Buu, ending it with a Masengo to his face, sending the bubblegum monster down to earth. Lazulia was looking a little worse for wear, but was overall okay. However, just when Soma was feeling some relief, Buu returned, delivering a hard uppercut to Mei and kicking her off towards the android. Soma caught his sister, who was quite hurt but wanted to return to the battle. However, both Lazulia and Soma stopped her. Soma was about to say he was going to fight Buu, but Lazulia took care of that. You two aren't fighting any more than you have to, and for breaking the rules already, I'd say you're grounded. Psychotheds wrapped around the two children before they were sent down towards the ground using telekinesis. Soma and Mei were forced to watch as Lazulia took Buu on once more, though this time she was handily being beaten. The genie was about to land a finishing blow on the fusion, only for it to suddenly end, the energy blast traveling right between Zangya and 18.
Huh? Where'd she go? Bring back strong woman, she was fun!
Buu yelled. He was about to kick 18, but a green and gray hand stopped his kick. Oh, I think you'll find me just a tad bit more entertaining. Don't you think, 18? The blonde android looked up to see Cell there, only for Vegeta to grab her and Zangya, telling them to hurry up and recover so they could escape.
How did you get here? It's only been 6 hours,
Soma asked, finally catching up to everyone. Let's see. I'm telepathic, King Kai is telepathic, Piccolo and Finn are telepathic. I wonder how I could have possibly been told Buu got stronger. Soma then realized, yeah, he probably could have told his father about this. That would have been easier. After Soma helped everyone get back to the lookout, including Mei, what followed was a fierce battle between Buu and Cell. The two were even in strength and speed, but what the Bugman had was pure strategy. And unlike Buu, he knew when to conserve energy and when to go all out. At one point, Buu went to launch a large mouth blast at Cell, who caught it and, along with a blast of his own, sent it right back down Buu's throat. This is when Cell begins to realize Buu's regeneration and power does have its limits. If he and Vegeta attack together, they might be able to vaporize Buu this time. The two begin charging up a final Kamehameha, while Buu desperately tries to flee, or even absorb them, but this is stopped when Cell puts up a barrier.
What the hiffle was that?
No matter. Won't have to worry about that once you're gone. Sorry it has to end this way, but you have to go, Buu.
No, wait!
Soma suddenly flew in, with a rather distraught Hercule on his back, them flying right between Buu and Cell.
What's he doing? Cell, tell your brat to get out of the way so we can finish this monster.
Soma and Hercule would go on to plead for Buu, them explaining what happened while Cell was gone. But they weren't talking to just the android and Saiyan. They were also pleading to Buu, trying to remind the pink blob of how Hercule viewed him as a real friend, as someone who could do good if he was willing. Vegeta was pretty dismissive of this, thinking it was impossible for this evil creature to be reformed, but Cell had a little more compassion. He looked at Buu and saw not only himself, but his kids in the bubblegum monster. From his inception, Buu was simply a creature who just wanted to do what he wanted. He yearned to have fun and run around playing, or fighting, strong people. In that regard, he was like Mei to a T, but unlike her, he never had someone to guide him properly, to tell him what was right and what was wrong. And even if some gray evil Buu came out and became this guy, Buu was still pretty much the same. Honestly, Cell wouldn't be surprised if this evil Buu was just a defense mechanism, something Buu created to protect himself from losing another friend like Satan or B. The Bugman powered his Kamehameha down, forcing the prince to reluctantly do the same. Buu, what do you say we do? What do you want? Cell asked.
What do you mean? He's a monster. Obviously, he just craves destruction and death,
Vegeta yelled out.
Buu wants... Why stop fighting me? Buu need fight, no talk. Fear Buu. Fight Buu. Destroy or be destroyed by Buu.
The Majin raced in to punch Hercule, but found himself completely unable to. He just couldn't fight the only man who saw a friend in the monster he was.
Buu, I know how it feels. You aren't a monster. You don't have to fight anymore. As long as you don't kill anyone anymore, there's nothing wrong with having candy and fighting people, if they want to fight, that is.
Soma said, flying a little closer towards him. Buu looked from Soma to Hercule to Cell. All of them looked as if they earnestly cared for him. What was wrong with them? Shouldn't they fear him after all he's done? Maybe this was just some sort of trick. Yeah, they had to be tricking Buu, lulling him into a false sense of security, right? The bubblegum monster was about to say something before Dende contacted everyone there and told them to watch out. Suddenly, hundreds of ki blasts swarmed the warriors, though many of them were easily dodged. Everyone looked down to see that, well, Hiffle had opened up. Several villains of old poured out of the crack from the earth, including Frieza, King Cold, and worst of all, Babidi and Deborah. But there was someone else that Cell couldn't recognize. It was some horned demon, or demon-looking entity, that followed Babidi around.
Ah, that wasn't so hard. With King Yema sealed by Janemba here, we should have no problems getting our revenge. Now, where's that traitor Kogu?
Babidi said, though by this time Cell and Vegeta surrounded the Potato Man and his entourage.
My, Vegeta, it's been such a long time. But I'm glad you're here. I need a punching bag to test out this new power,
Frieza said, revealing the Majin symbol on his forehead.
Go ahead and try it. I'll enjoy beating you into the ground.
Frieza charged forward at Vegeta, while Deborah went to fight Cell, him trying to settle the score. Babidi took the time to locate Kogu and the others and decided he was heading there, but Soma got in the way. He handed Hercule to Buu, telling him to get the champ to safety. The bubblegum monster wasn't keen on listening to others, but even he could sense Hercule didn't belong here, and so flew off with him. While that happened, King Cold stepped up to Soma, but was easily defeated with a simple tail flick. The android blasted a Big Bang crash at Babidi, but it was teleported away by Janemba. Soma would try to reason with this creature, saying they didn't need to fight, that it didn't need to follow Babidi. It could do whatever it wanted.
I want to fight,
Janemba said, reaching up and breaking a piece of his horn off, then turning it into a sword.
Oh, so it's like that. I'm sorry then.
Soma powered up and the two charged forward. The android was instantly sliced in half, him unable to react to Janemba's speed, something even greater than Buu's. He attempted to regenerate, but the slow process not only left him drained, but ended in him losing plenty of blood, weakening him even further. Janemba simply cackled and decided to charge once more, and Soma knew if he took another hit, he'd be gone. He quickly attempted to sense any good in Janemba, anything that could be redeemed, but there was nothing. It was like looking into the darkest depths of the ocean, expecting to find life, only to find an empty abyss. The android smirked as Janemba sliced him in half once more, and with the last of his strength, he grabbed onto the demon and began to expand. Cell, who was fighting Deborah and a surprisingly strong Majin Nappa, felt his son's energy suddenly swell, but didn't realize what was happening until it was too late. Once he blasted Nappa back into oblivion and punched Dabura into a blast sent from Vegeta, the droid turned around to see a gigantic Soma grappling with Janemba. He screamed out to his son, but it was drowned out by a blinding light and deafening explosion. Cell knew what had happened, but the reality hadn't hit him yet. The thought that his son was gone wasn't even a possibility in Cell's mind. What hurt the most was that Janemba was able to slowly regenerate with some help from Babidi's magic. Soma sacrificed himself for nothing. He even went through the trouble of trying to control the explosion so it didn't hurt anyone else. His son was truly such a kind boy. Tears began to stream down the bioandroid's face as the reality of the situation sank in. Anger and sorrow filled his heart, while his power slowly climbed to its limit.
Oh my, don't tell me you two were related, Cell. Oh, how cruel. Let me help you rejoin his side. Janemba, take care of this bug. When I'm done with you, Babidi, hell will seem like a vacation.
Cell screamed, no, wailed, releasing all his sorrow and anger in one breath, the sheer power of it ripping small holes in reality and sending shards towards Babidi and Janemba, who barely teleported them away in time. The demon then smiled wickedly, holding his sword up towards Cell and finally speaking.
Finally, a worthy challenge.
Meanwhile, Buu had just gotten to the lookout with Hercule in tow, but things were hardly any safer here. There was a huge battle going on, one which Buu knew Hercule would fall in if he stayed there. Then Hercule suddenly began yelling, pointing towards the back of the lookout where Videl was struggling against Popovich and Yamu. Buu knew who she was, and flew as fast as he could, getting there before Hercule could even see, and kicking both the Majin servants away from Videl. Needless to say, the girl was surprised the gum monster saved her, but then remembered what happened to Gohan and went to slap him, only for Hercule to run in and explain the situation. So, Buu was good now, huh? Well, if he was so good, then he should help defeat the other Majins. The genie didn't exactly want to fight them, but relented once Hercule promised to get him some chocolate. Trunks and Goten were busy fighting several Frieza Force members, though they all went after Trunks for some reason, while one of them named Raditz seemed fixated on Goten for some reason. Mei was busy fighting this large hulking man who simply went by 16, while 18 was fighting some weird clown guy. Zongia, Kogu, and Pui Pui were busy fighting Bujin, Beto, and surprisingly, Bojack, who was giving Kogu a really hard time. And yet, all these villains were wiped out in one fell swoop when Buu turned them into candy, which Piccolo actually thought was pretty genius. See, the Z-Fighters weren't struggling too bad. These villains were pretty weak, but whenever they were defeated and sent back to Hiffle, they simply flew back out. But if they were all candy, or eggs, then they couldn't go anywhere. But the Slugman knew this wasn't over, and with his knowledge of Otherworld, thanks to Kami, he knew what they had to do. Alright, we'll need a team of people to travel directly to Hiffle. Gathering the Dragon Balls wouldn't be that bad either. And finally, there's that thing. Piccolo looked off the lookout, watching Cell and Janemba battling. The collective fighters all shuddered, none of them having the slightest clue as to how they could possibly help. But then Mei spoke up, telling Buu he had to go help her papa. All the fighters agreed to this, though it was partially just so they didn't have to hang around him, since, well, he was literally just a villain.
What? Buu no want to fight him. He's too strong.
The genie began to back away from the group, him actually shaking a bit in fear.
But Buu, you're the only person besides Cell who could do something here. You have to help,
Hercule pleaded, looking the Majin in the eyes.
No, Buu's scared. Buu no want to fight.
He attempted to fly off, but Hercule jumped and clinged onto the gum monster.
You're the only hope we have right now. I know I've always ran away from tough fights, but you're the real thing, Buu. Your power is crazy, and like everyone else here, I know you've got what it takes to fight someone stronger and come out on top. Buu, we need you.
Back where Janemba and Cell were, Vegeta had just defeated the Space Emperor for the third time. But both Deborah and Nappa were flying back at him. Their powers had increased significantly, and after these continuous assaults, the Saiyan was starting to tire a little, and all the Majins knew it. Vegeta sent a big bang attack at Deborah, eviscerating the demon, only to take a punch from Nappa, who had grown considerably from the Zenkai's and Majin boost. The two traded blows for a second, with the bald Saiyan saying he'd make Vegeta pay for betraying him. The prince looked a little solemn before grabbing his former lackey and kicking him back down towards Earth.
I'm sorry, Nappa. Back then I was a terrible person. But if you think I'd let you tear me away from my family, you're mistaken.
A giant blast blew Nappa away, and for a second, there was a peaceful break from battle. But soon, Frieza flew back out, only to then be turned into candy. The prince turned around to see Buu, Goten, Trunks, Mei, and Piccolo? What in the world was going on? Why were the children of all people here?
Buu was escorting us to the break. From here, we're going to Otherworld to see what's going on and if we can fix it,
Piccolo explained, before flying towards the breach in the earth. Trunks was flying with him, looking far more serious than he ever has, but Vegeta stopped him. The prince made sure to tell Trunks he was proud of him, and to give everyone in Hiffle hell. The young Saiyan smiled, before promising he'd stop whatever was going on. The two awkwardly hugged, them still trying to get the hang of that, before going their separate ways. Vegeta then turned around to see Buu holding Cell, who was pretty beaten up and was even missing an arm.
I was hoping you'd come back. Be careful. This guy has more tricks than you do.
The android explained how his fight had gone, that while he was more powerful than Janemba, the teleportation and matter manipulation had been too much to deal with, and worst of all, Janemba seemed to be getting smarter and possibly even more powerful with each passing minute.
Buu got it, but Janemba has always been smart like Buu,
the genie said, and Cell understood exactly what he meant. It was more fun to toy with your prey rather than just finish them off. Acting dumb was something Buu and Janemba had in common. Hopefully, it'd be the latter's downfall.
Ha 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 ha. I'm glad you're here, Buu. I can't wait to see just how much more powerful my creation is compared to my father's. Janemba, take care of Buu quickly so we can destroy this pathetic planet.
Janemba flew forward and swung his sword at Buu, who morphed his body to dodge, putting a hand on the demon's face and shooting a point-blank ki blast at him. Janemba staggered back, holding his face, before Buu flew forward and wrapped his body around the demon. However, this is where Janemba begins his attack. He suddenly teleports away, forming right behind Buu and blasting the genie away. The bubblegum monster regenerates and kicks his opponent, who uses his tail to smack Buu as well. The two stagger back, both looking livid at how even they are.
You're strong, Buu, but it ends here. How about we get serious?
Janemba begins to power up, red electricity sparking around his body while he materializes his sword once more.
Buu will show you just how serious he can be.
The Majin stared Janemba down, quietly powering up, pink electricity forming around his body, as he prepared to use his most powerful move yet, the Demon Extinction attack. But that's where we're going to leave it off for right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this part, and if you did, I'd appreciate it if you teleported that like button, or maybe even transfigured the subscribe button. Ha! Told you I'd make up some more stuff. I apologize for how late this is, but I had to make stuff in bulk, so you guys had videos while I'm away. Anyways, what do you think of Janemba joining the party? What do you think Buu will do against him? What about Buu turning good? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Let me know in the comments below. You guys have a good day or night wherever you are. That's it for now. Bye bye.